New Zealand's motorcycle heritage, brought to you by Classic Motorcycles.
He and Jack McIver worked in a motorcycle shop, and then of course the Great Depression came and there was no work, so the bike shop closed. They had nothing to do, so Jack McIver was the front man and my old dad, he was the engineer. So they started up the company in September 1932. So it was a Great Depression when they started, and BSA, as I say, came on in 1936 until the demise in 1972, when in my opinion they were not particularly good motorcycles. We had, of course, motorcycles were import licence, and we only had so much licence, so we could only bring so many BSAs in, and one or two matchlesses and a few James and a few odds and ends. I mean, they had sales for more bikes than they could bring in, but there just wasn't the licence. And cars were the same, I think. And then, of course, a few scooters and mopeds came in, Pook mopeds and Pook scooters. Anything you could get hold of was acquired and sold. So it wasn't very busy, really. The workshop was busy. And for many years we did car engine reconditioning, which was a big part of our business in the 50s and 60s. It was a big part. When you took your old Ford into a garage and they whipped the short block out and gave it to us, and there was 3 of our staff reconditioning engines. No, you couldn't buy them from overseas. I was telling the boys recently that I wanted a jet helmet. Before jet helmets came out, we used to wear the pudding basins, and I went round the post offices in Dunedin in the lunch hour and got those 10-shilling postal orders, I think they were called, until I got enough money for an Avia jet helmet. It was about the first one around.
And you're not sad those days are past?
Just use your card and buy anything you want from all over the world. The world's just a village now, isn't it? We had quite a number of apprentices through the years. We had 2 at a time sometimes, but very often they went away and started out in their own or just went on to something else. Yeah, but we did employ quite a lot of apprentices, and we had some staff that were here for 30 years. Charlie Russell, you'll remember Charlie. He was here for 30 years. Took a cabinet making class at Tech, don't know why. I don't like wood. When I was at the King Edward Technical College, I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I took woodwork, and then of course I got a motorcycle licence, and that was the end of it. It was 5 years. It was 5 years, yeah. So many thousand hours. And we learnt lots about all sorts of things. But the bikes then were dribbling oil, and we didn't know any difference. They were just bikes, really. Until the Japanese came on the scene, and then in 1959 we started with Honda, and we had Honda for 45 years. Just sole Honda, really. Not much else, and that was good. And then in 2004 we jumped ship, you could say, and we went Suzuki, and since then we've been Harley for 20 years, almost 20 years. Which is a big part of our business, and now KTM as well. Patching up things, repairing things, making things.
Yeah.
So it's totally different, yeah. And it's very high tech, and it's a total different ball game now. It's good. It's good. It is really. Machinery is far, far better than it ever was. I do come into the shop, but I'm actually retired. In fact, our reception man said this morning, "Do you want to build a wheel for me?" So I might do a spoke wheel for him if he's busy. Still do a few wheels. When I was at school, I used to ride a Bantam in trials. The last year I was at school, and we took a BSA Bantam, out of the shop and put all this high footrests and tyres and things on it and rode against Noel McCutcheon. And you're right, I was 15, I suppose, and Noel was 20-something. I thought he was old then, but he was just in his 20s. In fact, when Noel went to the Isle of Man, I thought, gee, that's old to be going to the Isle of Man. I'd read about the Isle of Man because he was almost twice my age. So, but he wasn't very old at all. But so I rode a Bantam, and after the trial season was finished, we put all the mudguards back on again and put it back in the showroom. And then I picked up an old 250 BSA from somewhere, girder fork, and B21 it was called, about 37, and I raced that round the ammo track. And of course it wasn't road legal, and in those days it was illegal to tow a bike with a bike. But I lived over in Kaikoura Valley with my folks, and my friend used to tow me down Kaikoura Valley and up to the ammo track, which was only about 1.5 miles away. And I'd race around there all day with Noel and Colin Marsden and some of the old fellas that were there, and then tow it all back home again and put it up in the shed and work on it for the next one. So that was the ammo track. Yeah, then I bought another BSA off Bruce Marsden, Colin's brother, and it had Gold Star cams in it and some AJ's forks, still rigid. And I remember the first meeting I went away to out of town was at Ashburton. I borrowed an old Humber van with Campbell Shaw, who you know, and we went up to this Ashburton, scrambles as it was called then, and bounced around with this rigid frame BSA. So that was a real episode going out of Dunedin. And then I picked up, by the time I was about almost 18, I picked up a Speedway Jap engine, which I still have, and I put into various frames. It came in pieces in a Speedway with a Speedway frame, and I put into an AJS frame and an aerial gearbox and raced that for a while. And then after that I had a Hagen, an English Hagen frame, which again I've still got, and I raced that with the Jap motor, then a Jawa, then a 4-valve Westlake, which I've still got. So I progressed to that. But all the racing I did was really almost no road racing, although I did ride at Cust in the late 50s. In fact, one of those 250 BSAs, I rode them up there, and I finished in one year, I finished, the other one I blew up. And then in 1960 I borrowed from Jack McIver a Gold Star. It was XO and through, and I had to put a new big end in it before I went, and I rode that at Cust in 1960. The float bowl was a remote bowl hanging on a little bit of quarter rod, and it broke, and of course it was hanging on the fuel leads, and there's a photo somewhere of me with holding the float bowl against the tank to try and get the right float level, and it would drop down and I'd run out of fuel and I'd lift it up and it'd be rich. But I did finish behind Maury Daniels. He was third and I was fourth. All gravel then in those days, all the way around Cust, 4 miles gravel. Well, he used to come in here. We just thought he was a silly old man, but of course he wasn't. He used to come in here and look for a $5 or a $10 on his way to America. So that would be in the 60s, and old Jack McIver or my dad would give him a few pounds. It'd be pounds then, before 67, wouldn't it be early 60s? Yeah, on his way to, we used to think, why would he be going to America with this silly old motorbike? Because he took the whole bike then in those days, on the little trailer. Yeah. And we used to see him when we went down to the Bluff Hill climb. Some of the meetings down there, he wasn't riding then, but he used to, like the film, he used to chase the girls and talk to the girls in the paddock at the Bluff Hill.
Yeah. And he used to come up here out to Moscow, didn't he, to race?
Yeah, at School Road, he did, yeah. Mainly with the Velo. I think I might remember him with the Indian once when I was pretty young, but later on it was the Velocette he brought every time, and amazing, just to disappear. They'd start it up and it would just disappear and it'd be gone. Yeah.
Tell us first about the 500 BSA. It was a big heavy clunker.
It was a Gold Star scrambles frame, with a little tank, 2-gallon tank on it, and it had a cast iron B33 engine with all the Gold Star bits, and it was very fast and very reliable. And Norton gearboxes and Norton forks built up. In 1962 I ended up with a brand new Compy AJ, which wasn't very successful really. And I went, after a year or two, Alistair Sabiston bought it, and I went back to home-built bikes. Yeah. And then I built that little itsy-bitsy thing out of odds and ends. I have an Excelsior Speedway frame with a Royal Enfield bullet back end, and a Norton gearbox and a B31 engine, which was pretty fast, with Gold Star parts in it. I've still got that. Yeah, we had North-South Scramble every year. I think I was in the South Island team 8 times. Not consecutively, but over the years and 8 times. We never won one. We got very close to winning, but the North Island were just too good for us, really. I'm not sure whether the South Island ever won after that. I suppose they did. But it was a scramble then, and now, of course, it's motocross. I remember, I think the first one I went to was from Littleton in the ferry. I remember pushing my bike along the wharf at Littleton, and because there was no Picton ferry then. I don't know where we must have stayed overnight in the ferry then. It was an overnighter. But I remember my box of spare parts for my bike on the seat.
So your career must have gone like 50 years.
Oh, I hadn't thought about how long, John. It could be. Yeah. Oh yeah, from when I was 15 until I'm now 70-something. 77, 76.
Top, at the top.
Yeah, early days I was locally. Yeah, as I say, when we went to the north-south, we got points, but we weren't as good as the fellas in the North Island. I suppose they rode every weekend. In the scrambles days, there was Ken Clegg, of course, and Tim Gibbs. They were pretty famous, North Island. And then in Christchurch, there was people like Dave Burns. I don't know where he is now. He was pretty good. He became very good. But yeah, I have won a lot of titles, New Zealand and South Island over the years. Beach racing and hill climbs and miniature TTs and scrambles, as we called them. Of course, the classic scene came on in the early 80s, wasn't it? The classic road racing, which I got involved with. But I've still got 2 bikes. In fact, it's only about a year ago that I've retired from that as well, really. So from the early 80s right up till quite recently, I was riding my Gold Star Special again, built up, and an old Norton, an old pre-war Norton in girder class. Lost interest in it really. About a year ago, went to the Burt Munro and had a ride at Wyndham, and went to a 3-day meeting at Timaru, and I thought, I've had enough of this. When we started the CAMS club, it was all old classics, so pre-63s and then pre-72s. That was okay, and now they've got tyre warmers and generators going. The whole seat has changed, and I've lost interest. Broke a knuckle at Nelson at a beach race once, at a meeting up there. No, nothing really broken. A few sprains and damaged ribs and bits and pieces. Nothing major. No.
So you've always managed to get to work on Monday morning?
Oh yeah.
Because if you weren't, you're going nuts.
Yeah, that's right. I'd be here at 8 o'clock. Yeah, we used to go to Christchurch for the day. Sometimes go away at 4 o'clock in the morning and race our old home-built rubbish up there, and come home, and I'd see me stopping at Palmerston, washing the dirt out of my eyes, getting home at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then yes, back to work at 8 in the morning with a sore back. We had some good reunion meetings at Cust. The first one was in 1983, every 3 years, 83, 86, 89, 92 I think it was. We had about 5 meetings, over 100 entries. And Hugh was there early days too with it. In fact, I think he rode a Vincent down and raced it and then rode it home again. And I just had the old Norton in those days for the first couple of years, and then I built that Gold Star up that I was talked about and raced that. Yeah. Oh, I've got quite a lot of old bikes. Yeah, I have. Yeah, two. Oh yeah, still got them all. Indians. What have I got? Indians. I got a couple of Indians, and a couple of Nortons, and 2 water-cooled Scots. 2 Velisets. I've almost, I don't know why that is. I've almost finished one of the very last Square 4 aerials. In fact, I did have it finished, but I had a bit of a mechanical disaster earlier on this year, so it's in the process of being rebuilt in the engine again. Just something different. So yeah, I've got 2 aerials. The oldest is 09. It's an Abingdon King Dick belt drive, and I'm getting a bit. My knees are not letting. You've got to push and start. You've got to run beside it. It's fixed engine. It has a pulley on the crankshaft and a bigger one on the back wheel, and of course it's fixed engine, has no gearbox and no clutch. And the only way you can start it on the stand with the pedals, but then how do you get it off the stand because the wheel's whizzing around? Although I have on wet grass rocked it off the stand and wheel spun it away. But generally you've got to run beside it, jump on with the valve lifter and jump on, but my knees are not letting me do that too much these days. That's the oldest one, 09. It's a 500 side valve.
I guess you've heard of the museum at Nelson that we got up there.
Yes, well I saw the bikes a year or so before the museum opened where they were stored. Beautiful, yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. So we'll be up sometime to see those.